he's talked about fairness for a while and reciprocity and that sort of thing. And what you're seeing is kind of the messaging from the White House is basically that we're trying to rebalance things, but we're not trying to abandon the system.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by economics reporter Zach Halaschak. Zach, President Trump's advisors, members of his cabinet, have been trying to clarify his position on tariffs, and the Treasury Secretary had an interesting framing of it. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so he was kind of trying to, I guess, reassure international trading partners that the U.S. isn't just trying to go this alone and isn't just trying to, kind of blow up the scene here with the international trading community. So he tried to explain that America first doesn't mean America alone. I think that was the quote he used. And basically he's saying that the U.S. still wants to engage in these international organizations, the IMF, the World Bank, but also just wants to change things within those, take a leadership role in kind of transforming it to a more fair, what they see as a more fair environment, if you will. I mean, you see Trump going after all these trade deficits. He's talked about fairness for a while and reciprocity and that sort of thing. And what you're seeing is kind of the messaging from the White House is basically that we're trying to rebalance things, but we're not trying to abandon the system. We're not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
So there's the Republican tax bill. President Trump's big, beautiful tax bill is still facing a lot of hurdles, and a criticism of the bill due to the revenues involved is that it might entail trillions and trillions of dollars worth of spending cuts. Is that true? What are we looking at here?
No, the trillions and trillions of dollars of spending cuts is not true. What we're kind of looking at, what it's called a budget resolution. It's kind of the instructions that give the committees how much money to cut, how much to spend on tax cuts, that sort of thing. They're looking at around 1.5 trillion in cuts from various committees. So how it works is each committee, the Agriculture Committee, for instance, is given a set amount. I think that was 230 billion that they need to cut, so a floor for cuts, and then the committee itself has to go and find where to cut. So we're not at that stage yet, but we're at the stage where they've given the kind of dollar amounts, at least in the House, to the committees about where to cut, and that all adds up to about 1.5 trillion. The issue with that is it's going to add to the tax cuts themselves, take away tax revenue, so it kind of cuts the other direction. I think it was the Bipartisan Policy Center. They estimated that even if 1.5 trillion in cuts were included, it would be a net deficit hit of 3.3 trillion over 10 years. So we're not talking about, when you hear cuts, it's not overall cutting. It's cutting from what was already being, from the tax bill itself. So it's tricky, though, because you have some Republicans who want way more than 1.5 trillion in cuts, and then you have other Republicans, especially in the Senate, who are kind of wary about finding where to cut all this, because cuts come from somewhere, and it looks more and more likely that it might be from Medicaid or from food stamps, and those programs are very popular with their some of these lawmakers' constituents, and they would get a lot of backlash if they kind of went along with that.
You've written a piece for the magazine looking at a new business that sort of is in response to some of the criticisms of reliability of the international markets. What have you found? Yeah,
so I spoke to the CEO and founder of Kalshi. It's a prediction market. So basically, users can go on there instead of like stocks, buying a stock in, say, Chevron or some company and then having it go up or down. They buy stocks or options in an event. So who's going to win the presidential race? You buy a share of yes for Trump or yes for Biden, and if you win, it pays out, and if you don't, you lose money. But it allows kind of the wisdom of the crowds to play out. And it's interesting. I was talking to him, and he was talking about how much more accurate it had been in the past election than polling. We obviously saw a lot of pollsters saying that Harris was going to win, or that it would be like a wire-thin margin, like coin flip, essentially. Right. But we saw as Trump won every single swing state and way overperform. And these prediction companies kind of predicted that. You saw the odds that instead of being 50-50, like you might presume from the polling, something like 60%, 60 or even more for Trump. So this was kind of a surprising result for many people, now looking very closely at it. And you're starting to see Kalshi itself has been integrated into Robinhood, like stock trading, options, futures on that. And then it's become very popular, options trading on sports. You're seeing that. So it's exploded in popularity, and he just kind of expects it to keep growing over the coming years.
Better than a fortune teller?
We'll see.
Thank you, Zach. Thanks. You can read Zach and the rest of our policy team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.